Hi there guys, I hope you are having a good day. Now, Tyson Fury has reminded everyone that he's not fighting Anthony Joshua next, he's actually fighting Deontay Wilder, and that is important to remember because obviously the Anthony Joshua fight is only dependent upon him beating Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua beating Kubrat Pulev. So he's fighting Wilder next, not AJ, and he wants everyone to know that. Now, obviously everyone is going to be talking about an Anthony Joshua fight because that is what we want to see. We don't really want to see a third fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. We'll watch it, but I mean, that's a fight we've seen it twice already. And realistically, we've seen one conclusive winner in both events, whether he got given the decision or not, Tyson Fury. So ultimately, we don't really need to see a trilogy. We would do if it was like 1-0 Wilder, then 1-1 to Tyson Fury, but ultimately it's not. It's essentially 2-0 to Tyson Fury. So he has conclusively beat Deontay Wilder. A third fight isn't really warranted, but it was in the contract, so it's happening anyway. But at the moment, that is the fight that is in front of Tyson Fury, and that is the only fight he is really interested in, because that is what is stopping him getting to undisputed. Now, the reason why everyone wants to talk about that Anthony Joshua fight is because we all want it to happen. We all want to see who is number one. We know that it's between Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. At the moment, it has to be. Either one of those two fighters are number one in the heavyweight division, and the only way we can find out who is to see it in the ring. So that is why everyone is speculating and constantly talking about this fight, because we just want to see it so bad. And the fact that they both have potentially two fights before that fight can happen, I mean, we just want to see the big fight. The thing is, Undisputed seems to come along once in a generation, sometimes not even that. I mean, we could have missed it already because of what Deontay Wilder wanted out of that Anthony Joshua fight and the fact that he did not take it. So ultimately, we've missed it once. Do we want to risk missing it again? Because potentially, then, does that mean it's off? I mean, all it takes is one big punch from Deontay Wilder. All it takes is for Usyk to have an incredible night against Anthony Joshua and win. Even Pulev. I mean, this is the heavyweight division. Anything can happen. We've seen that over the past couple of weeks when Dillian Whyte got in there with Povetkin. So ultimately, anything can happen at any given moment. All it takes is one punch in this blue ribbon division. So do we want to risk them having two more fights and potentially one of them taking a loss? Then that unsettles Undisputed completely, because we are on a road to Undisputed. Eddie Hearn has explained they are willing to start putting things into writing for this fight to happen. But what is the point in that if they do not keep winning? What is the point in that if they have mandatories or contractual obligations to deal with before they can even get into the ring and face off with one another? Because we definitely know that Tyson Fury must face Deontay Wilder, we definitely know that Anthony Joshua must face Kubrat Pulev, but we also know that there is a possible WBO mandatory, or definitely a WBO mandatory, who explained he's going to force his position on Anthony Joshua. So that's another fight in the way. We also have the WBC situation as well. Whether Dillian Whyte wins against Povetkin or Povetkin wins, that will be a mandatory that Tyson Fury will have to face going into next year. At some point, he will have to fight his mandatory next year. So they both could have two fights before Undisputed can happen. And Eddie Hearn has previously explained that Anthony Joshua will fight in June or July in 2021. And if that is in fact Alexander Usyk, his WBO mandatory, then maybe he can fight Tyson Fury in December. But it was in the agreement, two fights for Undisputed in 2021. Maybe they already have a way around this. Maybe they already have some way in which they can get around that WBO mandatory and maybe a potential WBC mandatory with Tyson Fury. And the only way to do that would be to ask for an exception to make a unification fight. That is the only way this can happen after their next respected fights. Now, going back to Tyson Fury explaining that it's Deontay Wilder next and not Anthony Joshua, and that is what he is focused on. Obviously, we do know that. We know that Tyson Fury must face Deontay Wilder before talking about an Anthony Joshua fight. That's fair enough, because obviously you can't really go in there with Deontay Wilder thinking about Anthony Joshua fights, because you need to stay switched on for the whole fight, because one punch is all it takes from Wilder. So you have to respect Tyson Fury for saying that he has this obligation first, then we can talk about Anthony Joshua. But the reason why we aren't talking about the AJ fight is because we want it to happen so much. We just want to see who is number one. We've waited for 2 years, I think it was, when Deontay Wilder was champion, for him to step up and fight Anthony Joshua, the fight never materialized. So you can't really blame us for worrying that the same thing might happen this time. The difference is this time though, Tyson Fury definitely wants to fight. AJ 100% definitely wants to fight. That is the important thing. The only worry is the fight in between that. So the Deontay Wilders, the Kubrat Pulevs, the Usyks, the potential Povetkin or White fight for Tyson Fury. So this fight for Undisputed could be a while off yet. And obviously Tyson Fury wants to talk about Deontay Wilder. He wants to think about that fight. He doesn't want to be thinking about fights after that because this is one dangerous fighter in front of him on December 19th. And he's just starting his training camp. So it's only natural that he wants to be focused on Deontay Wilder, not AJ, not even Dillian Whyte or Alexander Povetkin. And of course, that is a big fight. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, the trilogy fight. All of the greats had 3 fights, but all of the greats warranted having 3 fights. Tyson Fury is clearly much better than Deontay Wilder in every single department. He even beat Wilder at his own game and knocked him out. So Tyson Fury is clearly classes and levels above Deontay Wilder. That is why we have to question, do we want to see it again? But then again, Tyson Fury is obligated to give him that opportunity. So what can he do? Now, one positive thing that we can take is Top Rank President has explained nothing will waver from Road to Undisputed. That is the fight they want to make. Tyson Fury versus AJ. That is most important. That is what they are interested in, and they don't want to waver from that plan. It is the Road to Undisputed. Nothing will waver from that. Nothing will prevent that from happening. This fight is on, provided they come through their fights, and hopefully they can start going to contracts very soon. Eddie Hearn has already put stuff in writing, apparently, and has sent it to Top Rank, and he is ready to agree and sign off for this fight to happen next year. Potentially 2 fights in 2021, which is extremely encouraging, but we'll believe it when we see it because of all of the negotiations that happened between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. So we're kind of wise to all of this talk about we all want it, then it doesn't happen. I mean, I expect it to happen between Tyson Fury and AJ, but I didn't when it was Deontay Wilder and AJ because I don't think that Deontay Wilder wanted it. Maybe he wanted to fight. I'm not saying he didn't want to fight, but ultimately I don't believe his ego would allow him to take less than he believed he deserved, which was 50-50, which he never did deserve in this fight. Tyson Fury does because he's built his name up, he's gone over to America, done it over there. So Tyson Fury does warrant 50-50 in this fight. Deontay Wilder never did. So ultimately we are wise to all of these negotiations and nothing coming out of them. But hopefully this time it will be different because I believe that both fighters definitely do want the fight. They have already agreed financial terms. That is probably the biggest hurdle. So that is positive. But respectfully, Tyson Fury wants to focus on Deontay Wilder. And that is important at the moment because if he were to lose that fight to Deontay Wilder, then we're back to square one. So Tyson Fury does need to focus on Deontay Wilder and not AJ at the moment. This is the most important fight in his career at the moment. Every next fight for both of these fighters is. So guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Tyson Fury just wants to focus on Deontay Wilder because that is his next fight. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. Leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks, guys.